Yep. In our previous session, we discussed about the basic terms of web. And from today, we will start practically working with technically working with HTML, right? We'll see dealing with HTML. Right. Yep. So in this previous sessions, we learned about all the terminology, basic terminology. What is URL, what is URI, website, debugger, and all those terms. Next, we need to understand how to start and working with HTML, the basic concepts of HTML, right? So today we are going to start knowing about HTML, right? So the hypertext markup language, okay. See, just some important basic things before starting with HTML, just an overview. We don't need the complete history of HTML. Just a basic thing we need to know that I will tell you. Right. So actually, in order to understand HTML, first we need to know the basic overview about it. Actually, before HTML was there, I already told you we have a network started in the early 1960s only. The basic point is before we started using HTML, actually, the languages used were GML and SGML. So generic markup language and standard generic markup language. So generic markup language and standard generic language. And I don't know, today, I think few people jumped into this session. Already we started this session with some demos happened where we discussed all these points. If you missed the early sessions, you will get answers to your quick questions and everything. So I think you missed the sessions. Few people may be joining today. If you are joining today, you missed the early demo session of introduction of all these UI technologies and everything. And you continue from today, and the backup session will be taken to you if you registered with us, right? So mostly by tomorrow or day after tomorrow, our link will change. Demos finished now. These are no more demos. Now we will start our regular sessions after 1-2 days. Then I will conduct a backup for the people who missed out our sessions, the previous sessions. In those previous sessions, we discussed everything about this, right? UI technologies, stack development, and everything, right? And if you are not there in that session, just continue from today. You will get to know about them in the backup sessions, okay? Right. Right. So to understand HTML, we need to just understand about some basic things actually. So in the early days of internet, actually, uh, the first browser we used for internet was a Mosaic. Mosaic is the name of the first browser to access. So we used this first browser called Mosaic, and for this browser at CERN Laboratories, CERN, Council of European Research and Nuclear, at the CERN Laboratories, two languages were developed, GML and SGML. So GML and SGML, generic markup language, and SGML, standard generic markup language, generic markup language. GML and SGML. These two languages were designed for presenting information. That means first you need to understand what is a markup language. So what is the purpose of this markup language? So technically, so for browser, a markup language was designed. So what is this markup language? What is the purpose of markup? Generally, if anyone asks, what is this markup? Technically, when anyone asks, what is this markup? Technically, if anyone asks, what is this markup? Generally, many people say tags are called markups, elements are called markups, angle brackets are called markups. That is all their invention, right? That is not actually the point about markup actually. The concept of markup is very simple. Actually, markup is a general computer term. And what is the concept about markup and how this markup works? I will just give you a point here. So I will give you a point. So technically, in order to understand the term what is markup, so we need to know about one important simple general approach. Actually, markup is a general computer terminology. So markup came from a computer term, marking up. It came from a computer term, marking up. Its concept is very simple actually. For example, suppose why it is called marking up. What is the intention here about this marking up? Actually, suppose we have a software like some MS Word. We have a software like MS Word. So in MS Word, we have a page. Right. In this page, suppose you know the default page, legal, we call as legal letter size. So the default page legal letter size will be 8.5 inches width and 11 inches height. That is the default MS Word legal letter size, 8.5 inches width and 11 inches height. right? Now here, generally, when we are trying to print this on a printer. Suppose we need to print it on a printer, and the point is we have a paper, and this paper is a general letterhead. Already company logo, address is printed at the top, at the bottom some copyrights and all. And this paper is having 7 inches width and 9 inches height. And I want to print this on this paper. Now here I written the documentation, everything. Here I written the documentation, everything. Now when I print this, then will I able to print it correctly on that paper? Tell me, will I able to print it correctly on that paper? No, we cannot print that correctly on that paper. Then what should I do? Can you tell me? Then what should I do to print correctly on that? Can you tell me? Now, in computer terminology, concentrate on my words. In computer terminology, we have to mark up the margins of that document in such a way that so that it can present correctly on that particular paper. Understood? Am I right? In computer terminology, we have to mark up our content to present it properly. Am I right? So technically, what is marking up? Now tell me. Technically, what is marking up? Tell me. What is marking up? Marking up is preparing our presentation to print exactly how we want. Am I right? Preparing our information to print exactly how we want it. Am I right? So technically, marking up is preparing our content to present exactly how we want it. I hope understood. Right? Markup is preparing our presentation to print exactly how we want it. That is the meaning of the word markup. So marking up is general computer term. Now, what is markup language? It is a language used for presentation. It is not a programming language. It is a language used for presentation. Understood? It is a language used for presentation. I hope everyone is clear. So angle brackets, H tags, these are not markups actually. We should not say that. Markup is a general computer term. So the meaning of markup language means it is a language used for presentation. I will show you a simple point here. I will create a simple file. Here I am saying hello HTML. Now I am saving this. In our website physical path. Our website physical path is shopping. Here home.html. Later I will tell you about extensions and all. Here I am saving home.html. Just observe the concept. I will save this. Okay. I will open this in the browser. So here we will open localhost slash our website is shopping, in that home.html. You can see here I am presenting information. Now tell me, am I using any language? Am I using any language here? Am I using any language? I am not using any language. I am not using any language. Right? Now in the browser, I am able to present it. Then why do I need a language? Because suppose I want to keep it to center. Then I will move it to center. I will move it to center. And here I will make some changes. Centered, centered. Okay, I will save that. And I will refresh my output. Is my output same as expected? Is my output same as expected? So my output is not same as expected. Then what I have to do? Tell me what I have to do in technical words. Tell me what I have to do. In technical words, tell me what I have to do. I have to mark up that information in order to present it as required. Am I right? We have to mark up the information in order to present in that way. Am I right? We have to mark up. So for that, what we are doing, we will use a language. Here we are marking up div, align, center. Okay. And close the div. I will save. I am marking up and refresh. It is working fine. And here I am using a BR line break and it is working fine. I hope you understood. So is markup language mandatory for presentation? Is markup language mandatory for presentation? Mandatory means without that language you cannot present. Is it so? Without that language can't we present? Without that language we cannot present anything. I have just shown you that we are presenting without the language. Na? Am I right? That means many people tell you a point like, many times you might have heard that browser can understand only HTML. Have you heard this from anybody? Saying that browser can understand only HTML, right? That's not true. Browser can understand so many types of files. Now, can't I open a photo here? Can I open a picture? I can open a picture. I can open a PDF document. I can open a text document. I can open any type of document which is supported by browser. And browser supports several types of documents, not just only HTML. Understood? You should be very clear in that. Suppose I am opening here. I'm opening here. So images slash speaker. I'm opening like this. Is it a markup? Is it a HTML page? Huh? Is it a HTML page? No. We are able to open a photo. Na? We are able to open a PDF document. We are able to open a photo. And just now you saw that without markup also I presented hello HTML. That means we can present our information on a browser. but we cannot present in the same way how we are expecting it. In the same way how we are expecting it, right? That is the reason. That is the reason we need to understand. We need to understand that we need one language which can present information exactly how we are expecting it. So markup language is a language used for presentation, used for presentation. And in the beginning days of internet, we used markup languages. At CERN, the languages GML and SGML were developed at CERN labs. The languages GML and SGML were developed. Languages GML and SGML were developed, right? And the languages GML, SGML were developed. The main point is developed as presentation language. Were developed as presentation language. So later what happened is, after GML and SGML, later Tim Berners-Lee introduced HTML, so Hypertext Markup Language, HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. Later, Tim Berners-Lee introduced HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, for web. I told you already. So later, in 1990, Tim Berners-Lee introduced web. The concept of web was introduced. After that, Tim Berners-Lee introduced the concept of web, and he introduced a language also, and that language was HTML. This language was extended from a language called SGML, Standard Generic Markup Language, and it have more better support than GML and SGML. It is superset to SGML and GML. And initial release of why it is called Hypertext Markup Language, I will tell you. Initial release of HTML was in 1993. It was in 1993. The initial release of HTML was in 1993. The first release of HTML was in 1993. And it is extended from a language called SGML. After that, several versions of HTML came. So the important versions of HTML is later several versions of HTML were released. And actually HTML2 came on November 24, 1995. And HTML, in every version, some new improvements came. We don't need to discuss about those improvements, because those you can understand only once you start learning about it. So, and it is in January 14, 1997, HTML3 version came. Then in the same year, HTML4 version released on December 18, 1997. So HTML4 version release. In every version, some new features started. Then later, in HTML5 version released in October 28, 2014, and several improvements happened. I will explain about all of them, right? I will explain all these. And the latest release of HTML, the latest version of HTML is HTML 5.2. That is the latest version of HTML. It is on May 27, 2019. That is the latest version of HTML. And actually, for several years, more than a decade, you can say that, for several years, we used this version. Even HTML5 came immediately, we haven't started HTML5. For several years, we used the HTML version 4. And now important is we shifted to HTML5, but still several websites are in HTML4 even today. Several large applications also in HTML4, we are using them. So technically, what are the differences between these versions can be understood once you finish learning them. Once you learn HTML, then you can spot differences. Because if I tell you some points like this option was not there, you don't know about that option, then what is the use of understanding it? That's the reason what changes happen in every version, you will learn gradually. When topic comes, we will discuss about that. This is the basic initial release history of HTML. Now the point is, it is not a programming language, it is a presentation language. It is used for presentation. And why it is called Hypertext Markup Language? Because Hypertext Markup Language, so it is called Hypertext Markup Language because it follows the standards. It follows the standards from the protocol HTTP. It follows the standards from the protocol called HTTP. HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. That means why it is called as an hypertext markup language, you will understand when you start using it also. Some more points you will learn. But here, it is a markup language. First point, it is a markup language. Means it is used for presentation. Why it is called Hypertext Markup Language? It is called Hypertext Markup Language because it follows the standards of Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Technically, protocol defines set of rules that are used by computers in a network to communicate with each other. So protocol defines some set of rules that are used by computers in a network to communicate with each other. Computers in different networks, different networks. Computers in different networks. Computers in different networks. Communicate by using various protocols. Computers in different networks communicate by using various protocols. Communicate by using various protocols. Like suppose we are using a web server. Web server uses the protocol HTTP. If I am using file server uses the protocol file servers. Actually, we have a file system server, so it uses FTP. There are several protocols. Suppose we have email, it uses SMTP. So simple mail transfer protocol. The communications, suppose we have messages, then messages are sent by using MSMQ. There are so many types of protocols, right? So we will understand about these protocols and know about these protocols, work with these protocols. So we will have a separate session on these protocols, so don't worry about them. But initially, markup language designed to follow the standards of HTTP and to work on HTTP. That is the reason it is named as Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext Markup Language. Actually, we can use a file server also here. Suppose, observe carefully. Last session, we learned how to create a website locally, use the website, access the website. And we are requesting by using IS. If you have problem in using web server like IS, you can directly access by using file server. You can directly access by using file server. How you can do that? Here I can use seek file colon triple slash. I can use file colon triple slash file colon triple slash. And where is your file? C colon slash. In that shopping slash. In that home.html and hit enter. This time I am accessing the same file, but this time you can see my protocol is not HTTP. Here I am using a file system protocol. We are using a file system protocol. This is a file protocol. By using this also we can access. And when you see this, that means you are not using the standards of web. You are just simply accessing from a file system and you are using it. For that you can use this technique, file colon triple slash, and you can access. That means you are accessing. If you are using HTTP web server, then it will be HTTP colon double slash localhost slash shopping. Our website we created home.html like this. Otherwise, you can define file colon triple slash C colon slash. So here we defined shopping slash home.html. Here many times, one important here, this time I am not using web server. So we are not using web server. Here we are using web server. HTTP resembles that you are handling the communication through a web server. This indicates that you are using a Windows file server. By using that Windows file server, you are accessing it, right? And here the key point is many times you have a confusion. Sir, how do we write C:/? This is backslash. This is backslash. And backslash you have to always use only for physical path. Physical path. Now forward slash, this is forward slash. This forward slash for virtual path. That is very important. Now when you write the physical path, you use a backslash. But in the URL, you are not typing physical path. This is virtual path. Whatever you type in URL is a virtual path. It is not in the address bar of browser. Whatever you type is a virtual path, not physical path. That's the reason you can see this is how we access. This is how we access, right? Not like you write C:/. That we generally do when we are using from File Explorer. This is your Windows Explorer. In Windows Explorer, in this quick access, I can type here C:, this time backslash, and here shopping, and again backslash. In that home.html, like this, I can access that. It will open. That is, but still when it opens in a file server again. You can see that because it is a HTML file, it opens in a file server and it is using virtual path. But in the Explorer, you have to write the physical path. So physical path, virtual path, these two differences I told you when we learned how to create a website. And you should know that why it is called as a markup language. The reason why it is called as a markup language, we know it clearly. Okay, because it is used for presentation. Why it is called as a hypertext markup language? Actually, the word hypertext was invented by this CERN laboratories, in the CERN laboratories. Hypertext is a lightweight text which can easily transfer over network. Hypertext is a lightweight text which can be easily transferred over network. Hypertext have the ability to directly transport without conversions. Hypertext, so without conversions. So conversions are not required, but it has some problems in the conversions. That's the reason later, in order to transport the data without conversions, they designed a language called XML, Extensible Markup Language. But this HTML can be marked. HTML can be blocked. HTML can be blocked. It cannot transport there. So some issues are there with HTML. So a lot of issues are there with HTML. We will discuss about it. Hypertext is a lightweight text which can transfer through the network. It is a lightweight text that can transfer to the network, and it follows the standards of HTTP. That is the reason it is named as hypertext markup language. Markup language because it is used for presentation. Hypertext because it follows the standards of HTTP and it is representing a text that is lightweight that can transfer over network. So the main intention was to provide a simple language for presenting information on the browser. For that we have GML, SGML, after that HTML. Many people ask like DHTML. DHTML is dead now, no more DHTML. Even now jQuery is also being eliminated now. You know, Bootstrap 5 released into market now, but not a complete release. Bootstrap 5 alpha release or beta release happened now. In that, no more jQuery. So no more jQuery. Everything is controlled and handled by CSS. CSS is earlier we have to use jQuery with CSS in Bootstrap. Now Bootstrap will not have any jQuery anymore in future. It will have only CSS. So to make HTML more dynamic, we use some functions. That was very popular in the beginning, but not now. So we don't care about this DHTML anymore. It doesn't matter. It's completely dead actually. We should not talk about that anymore. So only HTML. And what is HTML technically? If anyone asks what I have to learn in HTML, what HTML contains? Actually, HTML presents your information on browser. HTML presents your information on browser by using a set of elements, by using a set of elements which are presented, by using a set of elements which are presented in a hierarchy called DOM, document object model. Hierarchy means parent child relation, parent in that child again child, the root and child levels, a multi-level approach. Technically, if anyone asks and you say if what HTML contains, immediately you will get an answer: tags. Professionally, that is a wrong statement. HTML is not collection of tags. HTML is a collection of elements. So technically, I will show you here. For example, I am opening this page. So localhost and shopping, in that home.html. I press F12 function key. F12 debugger will open. When I press F12 function key, the debugger comes. In the debugger, you see there is a elements category. There is no category called tags. And when I move HTML, this is HTML element. This is head element. This is body element. This is div element. That means it is saying that it is elements. That means these are elements. HTML is a collection of elements, not collection of tags. The elements are built by using tags. That is the secondary part that you will learn. But you should never say that HTML is collection of tags. That is talking like a person who don't know technically about HTML. If anybody says HTML is a collection of tags, that is a blunder term. A professional should not say that HTML is collection of tags. HTML is collection of elements. So nowhere you will see that these are called tags here directly, right? We call them elements. And very important, these elements are arranged in an order. There is an hierarchical order. Parent, child, order is present. This hierarchy is called as DOM, document object model, DOM, document object model. You see, when I opened this, you can even observe here. Observe carefully. So there is a network category. I go to network category. In the network category, here you have options. Stop recording network. Okay. Again, start recording network. Network log. That means what you are requesting, everything is recorded. Okay. Now I request this page one more time. You can see the page came. Here. So home.html, and it is a document. And observe carefully how much time it has taken to load. And observe carefully at the bottom, DOM content loaded. It is saying that DOM content loaded, document object model loaded, and it has taken 38 milliseconds to load. It has taken 38 milliseconds to load. That is DOM content loaded. DOM content loaded. So here the point is when it is saying that DOM content loaded, what does that means? That means that all the elements in your HTML document loaded. How this hierarchy looks like actually, DOM hierarchy. This is how actually the DOM hierarchy looks like. This is the basic DOM hierarchy. This is the DOM. This is how HTML presents information. This is how HTML presents information. You are going to understand about this one by one. That means you can observe here. In this diagram, actually, two status are there. That means two groups are there actually. This entire levels, this entire is known as actually, this is called BOM. That means browser object model. That is the hierarchy, browser object model. In this browser object model, so this part is called as DOM actually. In this browser object model, this part is called DOM. This is related to HTML. This is called DOM. This is called DOM. This is DOM. This is related to HTML. The outside this part, this is under the control of JavaScript. Under the control of JavaScript. So this is under the control of JavaScript. This is under the control of HTML. JavaScript, of course, can control this also. If anybody asked what is the purpose of JavaScript, then what will be your answer generally? You will tell client-side script, client-side interaction, client-side validations, all these points. Am I right? If anybody asked what is the purpose of JavaScript, you will tell about all those points. Am I right? Generally, what is the purpose of JavaScript? Can you tell me? You will say that client-side interactions, client-side validations. Am I right? Yes or no? Right? Right. But technically, in a developer point of view, JavaScript is used to manipulate the DOM. What is relation between HTML and JavaScript? HTML presents DOM and JavaScript makes the DOM dynamic. Dynamic means client-side dynamic, not server-side dynamic. We learned server-side dynamic, na? Right? It makes client-side dynamic. That means HTML presents a button, but JavaScript gives a functionality for that button. Right? That means if anyone asks what is relation between HTML and JavaScript, technical speaking is a software developer who is aware in web development at very expert level, his answer will be HTML presents DOM, JavaScript manipulates DOM. That's it. HTML is presenting the DOM and JavaScript is manipulating the DOM. Many people say that, sir, I learned HTML and JavaScript, but I don't know DOM. If anybody says that, that means that is the biggest joke of the year. Right? What nonsense it is? What silly thing you are talking about? You are saying you know HTML and JavaScript, but you don't know DOM. That's a very, very questionable point at all. We start with HTML by learning about this DOM, because HTML presents DOM. Then how do you know HTML without knowing this? This is important. This is mandatory. Because when we conduct at high level Angular, React like technologies, many people come and ask, come there to learn. We ask, do you know HTML? They say, yes, we know HTML. We learned HTML, JavaScript. And we ask, then we are using DOM manipulation. Immediately, everybody questions, sir, what is this DOM? I am hearing new. Seriously, this is HTML and you don't know DOM? That's very pity thing, right? So HTML means DOM. You should know this in the first session of HTML when you started with it. You are going to work with this every day now. How this hierarchy works, I will tell you. How this hierarchy works, I will tell you. You can see the hierarchical order. I will show you a simple point you can understand. You can see the hierarchical order. Suppose, observe carefully here. I will show you a simple hierarchical order. Yeah, see, suppose I'm creating a page. Don't worry about my coding, right? Don't worry about coding. Just observe the concept. We have a body section, so HTML, and here we have a form. Okay, and inside the form we have name, we have a text box, input type is equal to text. Okay, and we have input type is equal to button. Okay, and here I have an image, so img, so width is equal to 100, height is equal to 100, so border is equal to 1. Okay, so that is how we have something here. Okay, now observe carefully here. In this design I have a page, so here I have a picture and a button and a text box, something like this. I want JavaScript to take control of this picture and put a picture, this image. I want JavaScript to take control over it. I'm writing a script. I want JavaScript to take control over it. I want JavaScript to take control over it. We will see. Okay, sorry, just for the break, right? Okay, now you can see here, I want JavaScript to take control over this image. So I'm just writing some script. Don't worry about any type of coding here. So because this is just to make you understand about the concept of DOM, right? How to write this, how it is happening. Later you will learn about this. Now see here. Now JavaScript is have to take control of this picture. Now according to DOM hierarchy, can you tell me where images are present? Hierarchy. Can you tell me the complete hierarchy? Can you tell me the complete hierarchy? Can you tell me the complete hierarchy of images? Where images are present? What is the parent? Wait, what is the parent? Parent is window. Am I right? Yes, sir. The parent is window. In the window, we have a document. In the document, we have images. Images is having a square brace, means it is a collection. It is an array actually. Array. Everyone understood this order? Everyone understood this order? Everyone understood that order? Yes. Keep it like that. Now, can you tell me order for button? Where is button? Where is button? The parent is window. In the window, document. In the document, forms. In the forms, elements. In elements, button can come anywhere. Elements is a collection. That is the hierarchy. Am I right? We have window. In the window, document. In the document, forms. In the forms, elements. Am I right? Yes, yes. Keep this in mind so that you can start this now. See, let's go to the design now. Here, I am writing on body load. Parent is window. Window have document. Dot in document images. Currently, how many images are there? How many image IMG are there in my page? How many IMG are there? One. That means images will be zero index. Am I right? Zero means first one. It is an array. Zero is first image. That means one. Okay. Image will have src, source is equal to image slash speaker.jpg. That is the source I am defining. I will save this. I will refresh. You can see JavaScript is taking control of that. Have you understood that? Got it? How it is handling? Right. Now see button. Now see the button. You observe the button here. Button is present. Button is present inside form. Button is second element. First element is text box. Am I right? Now in this page, how many forms are there? How many forms are there? In this page, how many forms are there? One. How many elements are there inside form? How many elements are there inside form? Two elements are there inside the form. Button comes the second element, na? Button comes as second element, right? Yes. Okay. Now see how JavaScript is using. Parent is window. In that document, in that forms, and first form 0, and in that elements, in that second element is 1 that have a value called submit. I am giving that submit. Okay, that means I am applying a value for the button. You see, button is not having a value. I am applying a value for button. I will refresh this. You can see button gets a value here. That's how we refer the elements. I hope everyone understood this point. You don't need to understand my coding. You need to just understand the point. Understood? That means HTML presents what? HTML presents elements in a hierarchy called DOM. Am I right? And JavaScript does what? JavaScript manipulates the DOM, takes control over the DOM, manipulates the DOM. Am I right? That means the relation between JavaScript and HTML is DOM. HTML presents DOM, JavaScript manipulates the DOM. So that's the reason once you start learning HTML, the first thing you should know is about DOM. So HTML is not collection of tags. It is a collection of elements. Elements are presented in a hierarchy called DOM. I hope everyone understood that. Everyone understood this, right? Now, how this DOM works and what are these elements available? How many types of elements are there? We will discuss detailing in tomorrow's session. Now, tomorrow we can start practical now. First, I will explain what is this DOM. Then I will explain how HTML presents the elements, the process, and what elements HTML is having, and what is difference between an element and a tag. All these details you need to understand. That we will discuss in tomorrow's session. Hope you are clear with today's concept, right? Don't worry about any line of code that I have written, because that is just to make you understand the process that you are going to learn later, right? Just to tell you that this DOM is the key point for understanding HTML and JavaScript. That's the reason you should know what it is and how it works. That we will detailedly see tomorrow. Okay. Hope you are clear with this. Right then, tomorrow we will continue.